Good afternoon, everyone. I trust you all had a sumptuous lunch. Compliments to the chef and to the Phoenix Week officers for curating a healthy and hearty lunch. Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause. I trust you all had a good time. More importantly, I think a lot of the debate and the discussion spilled over into the lunch. And that's the beauty of these Phoenix conferences, is you have a lot of discourse that goes into action rather than just a talk shop. And I know these lunches and breaks that you have are critical also in terms of forming the kind of collaboration we need to strengthen the economy further. Now, on that theme, I want to introduce the second session for today. We'll be talking about the critical Filipino challenges of hunger and food security. Now, for this session, we'll have two speakers. And let me please introduce our first speaker. He is Engineer Roger Navarro, of the Undersecretary of the Department of Agriculture. Now, just as a brief background, Undersecretary Navarro has actually been a leader in the agricultural sector himself, a proud farmer, also the president of PhilMaize, which represents the largest group of corn growers in the country. Prior to that, he was also the administrator of the National Food Authority until Secretary Laurel, who he represents, appointed him for Undersecretary for Operations. He is also the Undersecretary for Rice Industry Development and also the Office of the National Project Director for Philippine Rural Development. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause for Undersecretary Roger Navarro.
Thank you. And good afternoon po sa lahat. Mahirap pala dito, no? Walang sumasagot. So magandang hapon sa lahat po. So sa lahat ng mga kaibigan natin dito, sa lahat ng mga dignitaries, magandang hapon po. Pag-umanin po ninyo, wala po si Secretary, so I'm tasked to be with you today and give some messages coming from the Department of Agriculture. To start with, we are privileged to join you here in this conference to discuss how transformation should be in agriculture. No? We have 5 transformation agenda in agriculture, and it was quite a bit of hard to implement all of those, no? And with the sustainability, the diversity, and of course with this new age of digitalization, that would probably make progress in agriculture sector and inspire more farmers or more new entrants in the farming industry, would be fitting for us to make a change in the paradigm for agriculture. No. So we hope to accomplish the progress and development for the farms and fisheries sector, a transformation that would modernize our agriculture to achieve not only food security for the country, but lasting change in the lives of millions who invest blood, sweat, and tears to bring lives, the millions of lives of the Filipino farmers, and of course, food in our table. We are pleased to share some insights in the current state of agriculture, our targets, our future directions of Philippine agriculture industry. Agriculture remains a cornerstone of the Philippine economy. The sector, however, faces numerous huge challenges, including, of course, climate change, resource degradation, and socioeconomic pressures. Both, of course, globally and locally, food security remains the pressing issue of the day. In line with our 4-year agenda, para sa masaganang bagong Pilipinas, we have made a significant strides towards achieving food security. We remain focused on boosting agriculture production to ensure accessibility to affordable, safe, and nutritious food, while also developing agriculture and fishery as a profitable industry for all stakeholders in the value chain. In order to attain these sectoral goals of the department, we have embarked on the following strategic initiatives. Number one, we would like to expand and improve available agri-fishery areas and increase production. We intend to utilize the strategic agriculture and fishery development zones to identify additional suitable land and bodies of water, including flooded and flood-prone areas, in order to recover more land for cultivation. Just yesterday, we have a convergence meeting together with the DPWH, NIA, BSWM, the water system, to converge our efforts not only on the flood control, but using this available water in our countryside for the production of food. The role of DPWH is to get the water out of our land, goes to the sea. But our role in the agriculture is to preserve the water for food production. So yesterday we converged, we meet, and we define ourselves to converge in order for us to maximize the use of water. You can just imagine we have 2.6 meters of rainfall every year, and that is not harnessed. So this is one of the biggest challenge that we have. Number two is we need to modernize, mechanize agri-fishery production systems. I am in charge of the mechanization and agri-fishery as the USIC for mechanization. So we will complement production area enhancement interventions through the development and increased utilization of the modern science-based farming technologies and good agriculture practices to improve productivity and efficiency, as well as enhance the resiliency of farmers and fishing communities. We have not reached 10% of coverage in our post-harvest facility, and that is the big missing link in the country. In the past 40 years since the old Marcos, there has been no major investment for post-harvest facility. You can just imagine we have 2 croppings a year. The first crop is this season, and the first crop is a bumper crop. And we're going to use this crop, volume of this crop, for the next 6-7 months. And if we do not have the proper post-harvest facility and dryers, we cannot cross this in the next few months in order for us to get 12 months supply. There are 2 croppings, meaning in the first crop, we need to supply this for 7 months. The second crop will be 5 months. That will complete the cycle of the 7th month. If we do not have the post-harvest facility and dryers, we can never store this harvest and cross over the next 12-month cycle. And this is what we would like to do. The third one is to develop and improve post-harvest facility that is in the Parplang area, adopting the mother and daughter stations, whereby there are about 300 daughter stations that we would like to build, and 10 mother stations that has a capability of 100,000 hectares. So these are the big projects that the administration would like to adopt this time around, including, of course, the cold storages and in order for us to reduce our post-harvest losses. We have 16.8% of post-harvest losses. If we have about 16 or 19 million metric tons of production of rice, if we will impute the 16.8%, probably we will not import anymore our rice if we can address the post-harvest losses. So we need to develop efficient logistical systems, including post-harvest facility in the countryside. And this will ultimately the result of reducing logistical cost, our post-harvest facility, our post-harvest losses, and all of the missing links along the way in the value chain. And we would like to improve and expand local and international market access. We will push to overcome barriers in the local and global market and ensure proper promotion on agricultural products. We also would like to properly balance of both the development and regulatory role of the DA. It used to be that DA has been more regulatory rather than developmental. There are so many bureaus in the DA that are more regulatory rather than developmental. I just talked to Mr. Shell. He said that in the cooperative system, we have a problem because of the developmental and regulatory conflicts within each other. So right now, the DA is imposing, we have instituted this Agriculture Cooperative Enterprise Development Office in order to assess all the cooperatives that has been given benefits by DA and capacitate, strengthen this organization in order to be bankable and to manage their enterprise properly. So these are the things that we are doing in the department. The other one is, of course, we need to be more information driven. No, decision making should be based on data. Right now, this is the problem in DA. No, so we have some complexities on gathering data, and we have some problems in complementing data. We have some problems of harmonizing data. There are about 89 programs and systems in DA. So we need to harmonize all of this together and come up with one digital form of data and enterprise development in order to manage all of this data. So just to give you an update, in the first time that we are in office, together with the Secretary, we have spent 1 billion in putting up a command center for digitalization. We will mirror this digitalization in the regions, and we will have one big system in the central office. So we would like also to do a strong partnership with farmers and fisher folks, as well as private sector and the other stakeholders, in order for us to have a concentrated efforts that the DA hopes to foster a strong partnership with the farmers and fisher folks, private sector alike. Also. So this involves adopting an effective consultative planning and process. We are now putting up councils. The Secretary has already ordered us to make a commodity councils in order for us to be very proactive with all of the players. No? So there will be about 10 members in each council. That will be 8 from the private sector and only 2 from the government sector. No? And there will be big, small, and medium. So all of this representation will be in that council, so that we'll be able to be guided on what are the things that we need to adjust in terms of policies and interventions in agriculture. No? This is a feedback mechanism that we would like to do in order for us to be very proactive. So the DA and the private sector and the other stakeholders who will meet on a monthly basis because of these councils will give us more or less guidance on moving forward. So we also would like to have an available and accessible financial mechanism that encourages investment, especially on the post-harvest facility. Right now, it seems that there is no more penalty that we can get from the banks who do not give loans to the farming sector. It used to be before we have one half of 1% penalty if the banks does not give loans to agriculture sector, considering that the agriculture sector is the most risk, sector in the society. So I think you are all here. So maybe you will not clap your hands with this, no? So anyway, but for us farmers, you are more the risk of the farmers. I'm sorry, but we need to help the farmers, no? Especially in the investment that like post-harvest facility, because this post-harvest facility is a cost-centered. We have a request now of the amendment of the foreign investments in the country. And they're saying to us that they have so much investment. But if you're going to take a look on the investment, the investment is only on the profit center investment. Now, if you're going to take a look on their investment in feed mill, for example, they have not quantified which farming agriculture product that they're going to help. What is missing link from the farmer? If you're going to harvest, there is no post-harvest. That's the reason why we're saying that if they are going to invest, then they have to invest in post-harvest facility aside from the feed milling. If, for example, they have 100,000 metric tons of corn that they need for post-harvest, you need to backtrack how many hectares is 100 metric tons. And that 100 metric tons has a qualifier post-harvest facility. And that should be the more social responsibility of each investment. No? Kasi ang mangyari, kung hindi siya mag-invest ng post-harvest facility, and then nandyan siya, mayroon siyang opportunity to import, mag-import na lang siya ng raw material niya. Bakit mag-import siya? Kasi hindi maganda yung post-harvest. No? So mawawala tuloy yung ating mga farmers because of that. I think we need to harmonize the value chain on which is more, that needs a gap, a missing link that we need to invest. No? So our stand in the department, we should take a look on the missing link in the value chain. The missing link in the value chain is the post-harvest facility. In other countries, the post-harvest facility is a public good. It is just like building a hospital. It is just like building a school. It is just like building the road or building the bridge. Without that post-harvest facility, you cannot go to a processing area. So these are the things that we need to put this in the table. So we do not like a dole out, no? Pero nandoon na yung ayuda eh. But we don't like to promote mendicancy in the countryside, no? So we would like to put this forward because we only need a credit system that will put more or less the farmers in their dignified, at least in the society, no? So we would like to give ayuda for this time around, but we would like to capacitate them that such a time they will survive on their own. So these are the things that we would like to request the patriotic bankers to help us see how you can help the poor sector in the society. You know? Wala talagang tumatawa basta ito, no? Kasi napakahirap. No? Medyo challenge lang talaga ito kasi sinasabi nga natin ang farmers are heroes because they are providing food in the table and yet they're very poor. If you're going to look in the farming areas, who has a big house? The big house is maybe mayor, the other one are traders, but look at the house of the farmer. Napakaliit kasi puno sila ng utang. No? Kasi hanggang ngayon, ganun pa rin yung sitwasyon. Kaya nga gusto natin, sana ma-change naman ito in our watch. So this is the things that we wanted to strengthen in the Department of Agriculture. Sinasabi nga nila, malaki daw ang budget ng agriculture. Actually, it's very small. For example, if you're going to irrigate the whole 2.5 million hectares of land, you need 3 trillion budget. If you would like to put up the post-harvest facility of all this rice and corn area, you need 2 trillion. But the budget that you are given by the GAA is just 5 billion.
or 10 billion. So until our lifetime, we will never achieve a full post-harvest facility or irrigation in the country. No? Kasi tingi-tingi eh. Ang tingin natin sa ating sarili, parang Filipino tayo, fragmented tayo masyado, because siguro of the 5,000 islands, hindi nakasundo-sundo, eh matingi-tingi lang tayo, sari-sari lang yung iniisip natin. Kaya ang gusto namin ngayon sana, magkaroon na ng scale. Kaya mayroon kami scale-up program that will be able to scale yung post-harvest facility, hindi lang yung maliliit. Kasi yung mga maliliit namin na dryers, we just have a capacity of 7 tons, and you're going to dry it 36 hours, but your harvest is 100 tons. So how many days are you able to dry all of this? And you only have a window to plant and harvest and dry and plant again 2 months. Kasi kung mag-harvest ka ngayon September, eh mag-prepare ka ng land mo, magtatanim ka ulit, i-dry mo pa. Talagang masisira kung wala kang mechanical dryer. And yet, this is not given a ample parabang importance not only on the private sector banks but also in the agriculture as a whole. Kaya sinasabi namin, dapat magkaroon tayo ng guarantees dito. For example, if one of you here would like to invest in post-harvest facility that has about 500 million, for example, investment, 20% is that your equity. The other 40% should be the bank. The other 40% should be the guarantee. In other countries, meron silang tinatawag na viability gap fund. If the cooperative has a viable project, the government gives him the viability gap fund. This is not happening in our country. Kasi pasyado tayong collateral addicted. No, so nawawala sa atin yung developmental, nandun lang tayo sa, I'm sorry. Anyway. So anyway, together, let us only explore avenues that we can work together as a group and collaborate, and maybe implement actionable actions that will yield tangible solutions, and engage in fruitful discussions. And somehow, these are all aspirations. And we hope that you understand where we are coming from. I'm coming from a private sector, and I'm coming from the farms. I am not organic in DA. We were all not organic together with the secretary. I am a farmer. I represent the farming group. That's the reason why I'm talking like this. So, but anyway, maraming salamat po sa lahat, at may we continue to do the discussion so that we will have a more fruitful solutions for the farming industry in the country. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, Undersecretary Navarro. Thank you also for highlighting and having a clarion call in terms of working towards resource optimization, data-driven programs, and more importantly, public-private partnerships, especially in the areas of allocating capital into the value chain and the supply chains in the agriculture sector. Post-harvest facilities, definitely one of the highlights there, especially for the farmers and the fisher folk who represent the most vulnerable sectors of our society. I understand from the statistic also that farmers and fisher folk represent one of the older working classes also of the country, the average age being over 55 at least. So with that, and to continue the advancement of the alleviation of poverty, we would like to call on our second speaker, Attorney Balder Bringas. He is the Assistant Secretary for Innovations Group of the Department of Social Welfare and Development. Attorney Bringas began his career in private practice, but eventually joined the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission, or PACC, in 2018 as an executive assistant in the Commissioner's office. Now, due to his work ethic, he quickly climbed the ranks and eventually became the head executive assistant, or HEA, of the PACC chair. And in December 2021, he was appointed by President Rodrigo Roa Duterte as the commissioner of the PACC with the rank of undersecretary, making him the youngest person ever to hold the position at the age of 31. As PACC commissioner, Attorney Bringas implemented various anti-corruption measures and initiatives. His dedication to public service did not go unnoticed, as he was later appointed as Director at the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. on July 29, 2022. More recently, on May 9, 2023, he was appointed as Assistant Secretary within the same department. Ladies and gentlemen, Assistant Secretary Balder Bringas.
Magandang hapon po. Thank you for that very generous introduction, sir. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Unfortunately, Secretary Rex will not be able to join us today due to an equally important event that he has to attend to. So, well, he's with the President right now po. So, I was approached earlier and was told that I have to keep this presentation short, no? Because of course, we have a lot of speakers today. So I'll go straight to the presentation. Well, I will present to you one of the flagship programs of the Department of Social Welfare and Development, which is the food stamp program. According po sa United Nations, no, more than 800 million people in the world go to bed hungry every day. So that's 1 in 8 people in the planet. Can you imagine that? Dito naman po sa Philippines, no, according to the 2021 Family and Income Expenditure Survey, there are around 1.04 million families who are food poor. So these are families who do not have access to food to make up a healthy diet as defined by the Philippine Statistics Authority. So this prompted the government to issue Executive Order number 44, or an executive order establishing the food stamp program as the flagship program of the national government. So what is the food stamp program, or the Walang Gutom 2027? Sure? I don't know how to, but anyway, the Walang Gutom 2027 is a program which aims to decrease the incidence of involuntary hunger being experienced by low-income Filipino households. It has 4 objectives, no? But I will not go over this one by one. I just want to emphasize that the food stamp program is not just about providing food. It's all about creating opportunities for our beneficiaries. It's about empowering them to fully participate in society. So our aim is by giving them the essential resources such as food, we help them gain the stability needed to, number 1, pursue their dreams, and of course, for them to contribute to their communities. The pointer is not working. Where do I point it? So anyway, here's the objectives of the program. Well, basically, the concept of the food stamp program is that we will be providing what we call electronic benefit transfer card. So it's very similar to regular ATMs, except that hindi po withdrawable yung amount. No? That EBT card will be preloaded with 3,000 peso food credits, and our beneficiaries will be able to use these food credits to purchase a select list of food commodities from our registered retailers. So as mentioned earlier, and as correctly pointed out by Yusek, that the farmers are one of the most vulnerable sectors of our society. So through this program, we will be prioritizing our co-ops, mga farmer co-ops, fisher folk as retailers for this program. Now, our beneficiaries will be able to purchase food items based on the type of macronutrient. So out of the 3,000 pesos, 50% of this will go to carbohydrates, 30% proteins, and the remaining 20% sa fruits and vegetables. Okay, so now, so here it is. I'm really sorry po. So anyway, now as we all know, well, DSWD is famous for being an ayuda agency. So we all hear DSWD, parang ang idea natin about DSWD is all about giving ayuda. But as you may also know, meron pong apelido si DSWD. It is Department of Social Welfare and Development. So this program is a developmental program, meaning we will be imposing conditions, one of which is what we call the nutrition education sessions. So we will be requiring our beneficiaries to attend nutrition education sessions at least once a month. Now, we develop modules, no? And I would like to recognize, of course, Ma'am Christine Go, who was formerly from Unilever. So she helped us develop the nutrition education modules, which we now use in the program implementation. We will also be requiring our beneficiaries to attend productivity enhancement sessions. Here, we will be closely coordinating with DOLE and TESDA to require our beneficiaries to attend job fairs, no? And if they don't have the necessary skills, then we will require them to attend TESDA trainings, among other things. Okay? So I forgot to mention that our target beneficiaries for this program is 1 million beneficiaries. Because again, according to the PSA, there are 1 million beneficiaries who are food poor. Now, for this year, our target is 300,000 households covering these areas. No? We started the pilot implementation last December 2023, and we completed it last July 2024. So now, covering 3,000 households through the help of the Asian Development Bank and the World Food Program. So now, we're on our scale-up implementation, and since July, we have already rolled out in 21 provinces. There are about 63,000 households who were able to redeem their food vouchers. And we have registered around 150,000 households, and we have currently we have around 300 retailers. Okay. So again, it started last July. So here are some of the snippets of some of our activities. Specifically, this is our verification and registration. So this was simultaneously done across 21 provinces. Here is the nutrition education session, the productivity enhancement session, and again, the food redemption. So our plan for this year, again, we are targeting 300,000 beneficiaries. By next year, we are targeting to add another 300,000. And by 2026, we will be targeting 1 million households nationwide. So that ends my presentation. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat.
Thank you very much, ASEC Bringas, and more importantly for leading a more targeted approach given the limited funds you have, but at the same time fostering interdepartmental collaboration. So good to see not only public-private partnerships, but to see a lot of these cross-fertilization across cabinet agencies, so you can synergize efforts with the limited budget that's available for poverty alleviation. Now, at this stage, I'd like to invite our panelists to join the session. We're going to have Ms. Christine Go, a board member of Kain Tayo Pilipinas, and Mr. Joey Hernandez, President and CEO of Metro Pacific Agro Ventures. Christine, please come to stage. Thank you. Let's give a warm round of applause to Christine.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm assuming wala nang slides. Okay. Ay, thank you. Where do I point to? Saan siya iharap? Doon. Okay. Sige. Good afternoon, everyone. I think for me, one of the biggest, the most rewarding thing is to actually see the project that ASEC, DSWD, SecRex, and I had worked together, on the screen. It's been a long time, and I've actually already moved roles. So ibang-iba na yung trabaho ko ngayon, but it's always nice to be here and talk about malnutrition, something that's very close to my heart. So, okay. Can we go to the next slide, please? Ayun, okay. So, Kain Tayo Pilipinas. This coalition was actually formed believing that everyone has a role to play in ending hunger, particularly in the private sector. So earlier, when ASEC Bringas talked about what the government was doing, I think it's only right for us to also see what the private sector has been doing. So no one company or CSO or NGO can actually do it alone. This is a fundamental belief that we have in Kain Tayo Pilipinas, especially when the problem is as dire as malnutrition and hunger. The formation of Kain Tayo Pilipinas gives businesses and CSOs a platform to contribute towards ending hunger. As a private sector-led coalition, can we move to the next slide? Thank you. Kain Tayo Pilipinas is governed by a board composed of business sector representatives, while the advisory board seats are available for civil society organizations. The Philippine Business for Social Progress, or PBSP, serves as the overall secretariat for the movement. There are actually 3 work streams in Kain Tayo Pilipinas, and you can see them on the screen: nutrition, food security, and enablers. Next slide, please. The nutrition work stream takes on the life stage approach, focusing on programs for children in the first 1,000 days and early childhood. I don't know if a lot of people know, but our problem with stunting in the Philippines is actually caused by the fact that 80% of the brain development of a child is actually formed when the first 1,000 days of life happens. So if we're trying to actually feed the child when he's actually in school, it doesn't do as much as actually feeding him when he's in the womb of the mother, as well as, in the first, 2-3 years of their life. Next slide, please. The food security work stream focuses on programs and interventions to ensure that basic food needs are met, and also assists those who put food on the table. And finally, to better scale up food production through interventions affecting the overall food chain. And finally, next slide, please. Yun. I think ito na yun. The enablers workstream focuses on programs that promote sustainability to complement the other 2 work streams. These programs include interventions such as water, sanitation, hygiene, mental health, information, education, and communication. And it even includes public governance and policies. Let's stay on this slide, please. So this is actually one of the most important slides. Now, there have been many programs in the past, but what makes Kain Tayo Pilipinas different is that it complements the government's Philippine Plan of Action for Nutrition. Earlier, I was actually speaking on the table, and while for all of us with different companies, we probably have our own programs, the problem with doing it alone is that we probably will be duplicating each other's work. With the help of Kain Tayo Pilipinas, we are ensured that we do not duplicate each other and we don't duplicate the work that the government is actually doing. So together with DOH and DSWD, we have mapped out areas that are critical and unduplicated. While government reaches the lowest 20% of households, this one. So if you look at that red circle over there, that's the lowest 20% of households. That's actually where the government funding goes. And it's only right because these are the poorest of the poor. These are actually the households where malnutrition is most prevalent. However, there's actually the next 20%. If you can imagine, we have 88 provinces across the country. Government would actually reach the first 20. And the role of the private sector, the role that Kain Tayo Pilipinas does, is to actually organize us to be able to reach the next 20. Because hindi naman natatapos yung trabaho. And there are actually parts of the work that actually doesn't get addressed. Because money is not unlimited. Next slide, please. In the initial work of the team, we have identified 2 provinces that fit the criteria we set in the selection of priority areas. We have started our initial groundwork in Negros Occidental and Basilan, establishing contact and forming alliances not just with local organizations, but with the provincial governments as well. Last slide, please. Our battle cry has always been, walang magugutom kung lahat tutulong. And I hope that our efforts will inspire fellow private sectors present here today to actually join the fight. So if you're not part of Kain Tayo Pilipinas, if you're not part of the Philippine Business for Social Progress, please join us. I think there's really no reason for you to do it yourselves, and it would be nice to actually see the benefits of our work together, really create impact in society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christine, for the uplifting remarks and for the work you do. Truly, coalition building is the Bayanihan spirit applied, especially in addressing poverty alleviation through food security. Now, on that note, I'd like to introduce Jovi Hernandez, who's the president and CEO of Metro Pacific Agro Ventures. I'm very happy to see that conglomerates are now putting their investments in critical sectors like agriculture, and to see the MVP doing that, they deserve a round of applause as well. Thank you very much again. And Jovi, the floor is yours.
Pleasant good afternoon, everybody. Hey, tulog. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. It's good to see Christine. Christine actually came from that industry and is now in the telco industry. I'm the complete reverse. I came from the telco industry and I'm now in the agri industry. So what I'll try to do this afternoon, after the 3 speakers, was try to give you a glimpse of what exactly the private sector can do on the agricultural side, specifically targeting food security and food productivity. So in the next 5 minutes, I'll just give you a quick background of what Metro Pacific Agro Ventures is and who we are and what we're doing in the agricultural space. So Metro Pacific Agro Ventures is the newest baby of MVP. Now, we are only about 2 years old, and we are a wholly owned subsidiary, and we're a holding company that is tasked to take a look at all of the agricultural investments of the MVP group of companies. In a nutshell, how different are we from other agricultural companies? And these are the things that we would like to say. First, we are a technology-first agricultural company. We're not an ag-tech company. We're not the software type. We are a technology-first agricultural company. What does that mean? We are on the lookout for the best technologies across the world that we can implement here in the Philippines for us to be able to increase productivity, increase quality, or decrease costs. And I will be giving you examples of this moving forward. We are solely focused on fresh today. We're talking about nutrition. In fact, our Chief Commercial Officer is a longtime executive of the FMCG world. And he would always tell me that 70% of what you see in the grocery stores today, if you know what they're made of, you will not feed it to your children. So we are focused now on fresh products, and we have a very big aim of really trying to provide the most nutritious food for the Filipino consumer. We are, sorry, go back. Back, please. One more. No, back. Anyway, we have 3 lines of businesses today. First, we are in the dairy side of the business. Second, we are establishing the largest greenhouse facility in the country. And third, we are now connected to the coconut industry by way of Axilum Resources Corporation, one of the largest coconut exporting companies in the country, providing products to the US and in Europe. So let me first take you through our dairy story, right, very quickly, and what's new about dairy. I hope everybody knows Carmen's Best. Ay, salamat naman, thank you po. Okay, it was a very interesting journey because dairy was the very first investment that we did in agriculture. And 2 years after, I've also discovered that it is the most difficult. Because ang kalaban mo ho dito, invisible bacteria, because of the fresh nature of the product. But one thing inspires us in the dairy industry is the essence of the Carmen's Best brand in terms of ice cream. Alam niyo naman po that the Pope Francis said it himself that it is his favorite ice cream in the world, right? And to us, this is the first time that we are hearing that a Filipino brand could be known across the world. And if you think about that for a moment and take a look at the agricultural subsectors in this country, we were number one in a lot of agricultural sectors before. But have you heard of a Filipino branded agricultural product that is known throughout the world? Coconuts, we are into coconuts, right? We are one of the suppliers of Vita Coco, fantastic product, right? Vita Coco, multi-billion-dollar brand. Vita Coco is made in the Philippines. So one of the things that we are looking at is we have to be able to develop as a country the ability to add value to our agricultural products. And the Undersecretary is correct. Part of that is post-harvest, right? Post-harvest processing. Who knows ilang-ilang? The girls. Ilang-ilang? Yes. It's treated like grass here in the Philippines, right? It's everywhere. But to the discerning women, I hope, that's the major ingredient for Chanel number 5. You didn't know that? It's the main ingredient in Chanel number 5, and it is found here in the Philippines. Now, going back to the dairy sector, I have 2 minutes left. The dairy sector, 99% of the milk consumption in this country are all imported, right? And then 70% out of that 99% are all powder-based milk products. So our intent is really to develop the fresh segment in the Philippines, right? And that's the reason why we've invested in Carmen's Best. It started out with about 300 cows in Laguna. We have practically doubled already the number of cows that we have in the farm. We are the type of company who wants to be a farmer as well. I also graduated from agricultural economics from UP Los Baños, so we're not the type that's in the office. We want to be in the farm with the farmers, getting our hands dirty and milking the cows, right? That's our approach. And we're fully integrated from production all the way to processing, distribution, marketing, and branding. Now, what's interesting is that we've now partnered with we have a joint venture partnership with an Israeli company called LR Group, and the intent is for us to build the largest integrated dairy facility in the country, in Laguna, which will probably house about 2,500 cows. Just last week, we've finished the transaction of buying Bukidnon Milk Company out of Mindanao, Bukidnon, for us to be able to integrate all of these things for us to have nationwide distribution. So, from the dairy side of the segment, last point, kala ko time's up na. Last point, the Philippines are, the yield of the cow of the Philippines is about 8 to 10 liters per cow per day, right? The global average is about 40. Ang layo. Diba? Ang layo. So, we looked at the technologies available around the world, and I saw it personally in Papua New Guinea, of all places. So the hypothesis was, whatever you guys are doing in Papua New Guinea, can we bring it here in the Philippines, do the same thing, and produce 40 liters per cow per day, right? And with that, there's a lot of leeway in terms of going up and adding value and having more products. And that's the reason why we've invested in the dairy business. And this slide is, I think, very, very interesting, and I think it's very, very important. Is what we found is we are now front and center of the whole local dairy industry. While we have increased the number of cows that we have, we just needed more milk. And we are now working with local dairy farmers. We're actually buying their milk and processing it. And we found ourselves now into what we call kind of a circular economy, right? Where we work with farmers, we work with corn farmers, we want to get into corn farming as well. Ang lakas kumain ng baka eh. 40 kilos per head per day ang kinakain. So can you imagine if we have 5,000 cows, how much corn do we need? And we're very glad that the government is now looking at the issue, the perennial issue of land ownership, because we can't get into commercial scale corn farming because we're not only allowed a certain parcel of land, right? And then last but not the least, second is just very quickly on this, very excited also about this business. We are building the largest greenhouse facility in the country. This is located in San Rafael, Bulacan. It will be finished by the end of the year, and we will be live for commercial operations starting January next year. Technology is not new. Everybody was doing it in your own houses during the pandemic when you're doing hydroponics growing. What is different is that we are doing it at scale. So we are going to have 3.5 hectares worth of greenhouses in San Rafael, Bulacan. MVP has decided already this early that we will double it next year to 7 hectares. And this facility alone will deliver 1,600 metric tons of vegetables annually. Now think of it this way. One greenhouse has about roughly 50,000 lettuce heads, and we are growing that every 27 days. There's no 2 cycles or 3 cropping cycles. It's every 27 days, whole year round. So you can think of it as a food factory, which I think is going to be, it's 9 times more productive than traditional agriculture. It saves, we use only 90% less water. We will use 99% less land, 99% less fertilizers and herbicides and pesticides. I think the critical thing for us, for the private sector to do now is to work with government, because our plan is to teach this technology to the smallhold farmer, right? Ang sabi po nila sa Pilipinas, the most stubborn person in the country is the farmer, right? Manong, tama, di ba? But if we can show the country that we can get one farmer, teach him the greenhouse technology, finance his greenhouse, and we can show that he is 9 times more productive, we feel that we have a very big value proposition to get all the farmers on board for them to adapt to the technology. So far, that's where we are, and there's a lot more things that we want to do, but I think the critical thing is private sector, the farmer, and the private sector must work hand in hand for us to be able to achieve all of these things. So thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Thank you again, Joey, for your remarks and outlining how you've moved from a strategic and tech-driven approach to now scaling it and cascading it down to the smaller stakeholders in the agribusiness and agriculture sector. Now, may I invite back on stage Undersecretary Navarra, Asek Bringas, and Christine and Jovi to join the panel. To moderate this panel discussion, may I call on the esteemed Chair of Brain Trust and the former Director General of NEDA, Cielito Habito.
Thank you, and good afternoon. We don't really have that much time, but we would love to get more from our panelists, and I don't know if we can still put in a couple of questions from the audience. Just to start, I've long said that agriculture is too important to be left to the Department of Agriculture alone. And I think I can say the same thing about social welfare and serving the needs of the poor. It's too important to be left to the DSWD alone. Of course, one prominent sector is the local governments. In fact, I think you'll all remember that both agriculture and social welfare and development were devolved by law in 1991 to the local governments. But so that's why I'd like to get to that in a while. But really what I would like to see is a much stronger partnership, not only with the local governments, but precisely with the private sector. I think that's our objective here this afternoon. how can the private sector more effectively work hand in hand with government in serving the needs of uplifting our farmers, uplifting our food security through cheaper and more nutritious food? So maybe I'd like to start the ball rolling by asking, I'll start with our private sector panelists, and I'll go ladies first. I'll ask Christine. The question really is, what problems or obstacles have you seen in precisely working in partnership with government? What are the things that could improve in terms of working in better sync with government? In your case, addressing nutritional needs of our people.
I would have to say two things, Doc. I think one of the first things is probably being able to know who to partner with or who to go to. I mean, the government has always been there, but for a lot of private, and I'm really talking in general, for a lot of the private sector, oftentimes you have an idea, you have a program, but you don't really know what the government is actually doing, or at least at that particular point in time. So being able to connect government and private sector, the thrust that you have, that's always like the first hurdle, right? That's the first thing. The second thing for me is it's being able to organize ourselves. Because each private sector only looks at their own businesses. And I think that's exactly what I was talking about earlier when I said that the purpose of Kain Tayo Pilipinas, at least on the malnutrition and enablers and hygiene portion, at least on that particular aspect, our job is to make sure that we know exactly where to go or where to direct private sector to make sure that the work that we do is also complementing what government is doing. So that as government does the work that they need to do to land the programs that the President has asked us to land, the private sector is doing things in parallel. There's no duplication, and we actually funnel our monies where it should be to be able to drive scale. So it's like, while you're looking at yourself, you're also moving in the same direction. And when you move in the same direction, you create bigger impact.
Well, I'll throw the same question to Jovi. Of course, you're coming from the perspective of a large company, in fact, taking the challenge of getting into a erstwhile unpopular sector to bring big business into. And by the way, I've heard explanations from some CEOs of big business that the reason it's so difficult is because of fragmentation, agrarian reform, and all that. No? But in the case of Metro Pacific Agro Ventures, again, same question. What might be some obstacles or difficulties that you are having, especially in working with government and other sectors, in what you're trying to pursue right now?
Buti na lang, Professor, hindi Economics 101, tanong mo sa akin. You were my professor in college. No, I think I'll answer that in a different fashion. No? I've been officially in the agricultural space now for 2 years. And to be very honest, when we were starting, the government was very, very supportive, right? In terms of getting all of our permits super fast. First time I saw that kind of speed. When the government said that they want to enable especially new age agricultural investments similar to what we have been doing, we found the support both of local government and national government in making things happen for us. And that's the reason why very quickly we were able to put up the dairy business and now the greenhouse business, and we're looking to much more investments. I think the most difficult thing to realize, because again, Mr. Habito, I was in Agecon ako nung UP, that was 30 years ago. The challenges of the agricultural space when I was in college, quite frankly, are still the same up to today. And one of the biggest things that I've seen is the failure of the agricultural sector to adapt new technologies. It is still the traditional agriculture. It is still magbungkal ng lupa, magtanim, magharvest, pahinga. And repeat, di ba? It's like the greenhouse business. Everybody was doing it. How come we haven't done it here? It's a very simple technology. And you will be able to produce every 27 days, all year round. Again, that's 9 times more profitable. I think what we need to do is a partnership between private and public sector to really identify what are these technologies that we need to adapt immediately. No? I mean, like the dairy cows, it looks very simple but very difficult business. 10 liters per cow per day. It was just a matter of having the right nutrition for the cows. Because in the Philippines, ano ba ang buhay ng cow sa Pilipinas? Grazing. Hala, diyan kayo, kumain kayo ng damo. Right? That's the traditional way of doing things. So the yield is very, very low. But because of our partnership with the Israelis, who were known to be one of the best in the world in terms of dairy, and by the way, they started it in the kibbutz, which was a desert, and so they have a proven technology that works. It's just a simple way of implementing it here and getting the support of government. So the dairy story for us is quite inspiring to me, because now we're working with the National Dairy Authority, we're working with farmer cooperatives in Batangas, in Quezon, all over. And now that we're in Bukidnon, we're looking at Mindanao, and it's the same story. So we're growing, the small farmers are growing because we're buying all of their milk, so it becomes a circular economy.
Well, you know, I remember when I was also an undergrad, maybe a few years before you in UP Los Baños, one thing we learned was that, at least in our animal science, and you must have taken animal science, is that the problem in dairy is the cows that produce much milk are not acclimatized to the Philippines. So you can't expect much productivity. It's going to be hard to be competitive. But, you know, you mentioned technology, and here I'd like to throw the question next to Yusek Navarro. As I've already mentioned, since 1991, agriculture extension especially, which is providing precisely that technology knowledge to our farmers, had been devolved to the local government. So I would like to ask Yusek Navarro, since the last administration, a new mechanism has been put in place to make that devolution more effective by having the provinces take the lead. And so I'd like to ask Yusek, how is the department proceeding in precisely, as they say, have the national government just do the steering, but let the local governments do the rowing, including in technology dissemination? What is the department doing in that direction so that you don't do all of the work yourselves? As I said, it's too important for you for it to depend on you alone, but to get more of it done by the local governments.
Yeah, thank you. Kami po ay nakalutang. Wala po kaming paa. There is no extension worker, so mandun lang kami sa taas. So in other words, yung aming mga sundalo ay nasa LGU. The first thing first is that agriculture has been branded as a poor man's occupation. There's even a song, planting rice is never fun. No? Mahirap ang magtanim. So all of these things come to mind to a Filipino na mahirap mag-engage ng agriculture. So there should be a change of mindset that agriculture has always been fun. Agriculture has always been good for the country for food. So these are the mantra that the Secretary would like to promote in our stand in agriculture. That's number one. Number two is that we already institute the so-called PAPIs, no? The Provincial Agriculture Fishery Extension Service. So in these PAPIs, sila yung nagtitimon sa lahat ng mga agriculture extension workers doon sa LGU. Ang problema lang namin, siyempre, yung intervention is not always at all times nandoon sa LGU. Nandoon pa rin yan sa mga cooperatives under the LGU. So, ang challenge lang talaga is that they are not under our command. They are under the command of the mayor or they are under the command of the governor. And there are some agenda of the governor or the mayor that is beyond agriculture or not agriculture at all. And then the intervention of government will not be put in place in that particular area. So ang challenge ni Secretary is that there will be a convergence now between DILG, we're looking into that, so that we'll be able to hook up, magkaroon kami ng at least sundalo doon sa province, doon sa munisipyo, doon sa barangay na po. So we are counting on that and we think we will have about 10,000 more people put soldiers on the ground po.
Well, going to the SWD, your work is what I consider to be on the downstream part of the food security and nutrition system. Obviously, you're now catering more directly to the nutritional needs, the actual feeding needs, no, of the poor. By the way, I noticed from your figures that, yeah, we're a long way to go to get the right scale to really make a difference, no? Because we're just talking about 150,000, you're hoping for 1 million in 3 years. Clearly, there are tens of millions that need this assistance. But in doing all of this, how do you look forward to perhaps a better coordination with the upstream, which is the Department of Agriculture and Farming, including the private sector, in again being able to better help address the nutritional needs of our people?
Well, for the past few decades, we've been trying to address hunger, malnutrition, but until now, no, we really haven't made any dent in the data. So as we speak, till now, it's one out of 5 children, 1 out of 4 children under 5 years old are still stunted, despite the efforts of both the public and the private sector. So one of the issues or problems that we were able to identify is that we don't have a reliable database, no, number one. And number two, we work independently of each other. We work in silos, as correctly pointed out by Ma'am Christine. So we implement programs that would assist farmers. Of course, the DA has also similar programs, but we are implementing it independently of each other. So one of the upon the assumption of Secretary Rex, no, he's a very data-driven person, evidence-based. So upon his assumption and being the head of the interagency task force on zero hunger, now one of the main thrust of the interagency right now is to establish a more robust database that will be able to monitor all of the programs being implemented by all government agencies that is related to food and hunger, and at the same time so that we can determine the appropriate interventions that we need to implement to ensure that we cover the most vulnerable sectors of our society.
Okay, well, I'm mindful of the time. I know that this session was supposed to end at 2:20. So let me do a very quick wrap up because we're already close to 2:30. One thing I did want to point to is how I have had a personal advocacy that this education crisis that our next speaker, acknowledging the presence of Secretary Sani Angara, the education crisis we're seeing right now, being bottom dweller in the world in PISA, at least we've improved a little bit since 2018. I'd like to say it's not just about teachers and school textbooks, but it's also about precisely malnourished children. As Christine mentioned, 80% of brain development in any human being happens before age 2, and 90% happens before age 5. So if a child is severely malnourished and therefore stunted by age 5, the person is damaged for life, and they'll have very great difficulty going through school, understanding the lessons. So in the end, talagang related din sa next topic, next session natin. Yeah, so Yusek Navarro, you wanted to say something quickly about that?
Yeah, I just would like to to just emphasize that, for example, we are used to white rice, just for the sake of nutrition. Actually, white rice is not nutritious. It has more carbohydrates. If you're going to eat it, it can easily be converted into sugar. But if the recent program of DA now is we only have a single pass rice that will become brown rice. Brown rice is more nutritious, no, than a white rice. White rice is 4 passes, 3 pass. In other words, nawala na yung nutrina niya. No, so nagiging carbohydrates na lang siya. And then we are not also eating corn, for example. Kasi 4 months staple nga eh. So maraming mindset na kailangan pa rin natin baguhin in order for us to more or less address yung nutrition. The other one ngayon, mayroon tayong DSWD role
na i-fortify na natin yung ating rice. The problem in fortifying rice, kung magluluto tayo, hinuhugasan natin yung rice eh. No, hinuhugasan mo yung rice, nawawala yung fortification. So ang kailangan natin ngayon, dapat naka-parboil na yung rice, naka-mix na siya doon, tapos i-mix natin doon sa ating rice. Para makain ng tao yon, mas nutritious pa yon. So there are many things that we need to do in agriculture, both for food development and DSWD po.
Well, indeed, there's so much to do both on the upstream and the downstream. On the upstream, by the way, truly, at least we economists believe, the root of our malnutrition problem is high-priced food. And in the end, it traces to agriculture that lacks productivity. And therefore, the prices, I think many people know, our food prices are 2 to 3 times higher than in our neighbors. We are not competitive. And, I don't want to go into a lecture on why a very close trade policy has led to that, etc. But in the end, we have to really look at productivity. That's the upstream solution. On the downstream solution, yes, indeed, we have to have much better data and information and much more effective delivery of services, hopefully with the LGUs being very much part of that. But on that, I think, we can see that there's so much to do, so much thinking together that has to be done. And what we don't have today is civil society, although in a way Christine represents that as well. But, it's a partnership among government, civil society, private business sector, LGUs, the academe. All of us really have to work together because as I started with, agriculture and social welfare and nutrition delivery is too important to be left to the DA and DSWD alone. So maraming salamat sa ating mga speakers and panelists and hope we can have further discussion.
Thank you very much, Dr. Habito and our esteemed panelists. May I now call on President Toti Bengzon and the Phoenix Week officers to present tokens of appreciation for our panelists.